Hello guys, want a composite like this? Then this is the perfect tutorial for you. Alright, to start off, I edit on After Effects 2020. You can use any version you have. I just prefer the 2021 myself. Some plugins that I'm gonna be using in this video are Magic Bullet Looks, Deep Glow, Chromatic Aberration. You can find them on the internet if you look for them long enough. The tutorial is gonna have different steps to it. 1. Masking. 2. Coloring. 3. Shading. 4. Compositing. 5. Color correcting. Let's start with masking. I use Photoshop to mask my panels, which I recommend you guys use as well, but if you can't, you can use Ibis Paint X on your phone and transfer it over to your PC after. If you're a psycho, you can use After Effects to do the masking. For this specific composition, I didn't have any animation on it, so I just masked the panel as one layer, which is self-explanatory. I use the lasso tool to mask, and if you right-click it, you can actually switch over to the magnet lasso tool, which helps a lot in some case if you don't have steady hands, or you're using a mouse to mask. Another tool I recommend you guys can use is the pen tool. Just make sure this is set to path. And after you're done using the pen tool, just click on Selection and Mask and click on Add. Now onto the coloring part. To choose my colors, I use Google to find a picture of the character I'm coloring and take the colors from that reference picture. Now this is the important part. Create a new layer you're gonna be coloring on and change the blending to multiply. I recommend creating multiple layers you're gonna color on, like for skin, hair, clothes, and eyes. Now just select the color from the reference picture and start coloring. After you're done coloring, you can add slight gradients to your coloring layers, but I'm not gonna be showing y'all how to do that in this video. After all the layers colored, what I look to do is add slight shadows on the edges of the eyes to my characters. This make the eyes pop a bit more. After you're done coloring, it's time to add shadows to your panel. You can use these reference pictures. I'll leave a few that I use in the description. But if your panel is really simple and you're lazy, you can actually add a shadow to your PNG by using Drop Shadow. Make sure the shadow only option is ticked, then add Set Matte and CC Composite. Set the blending to behind and turn RGB only off. Back to manual shading now. I like to create a layer for the shadow and selecting the PNG by holding Ctrl and clicking on your layer icon. That selects the PNG. And then on the new layer that you created, you can just use your brush to fill the layer with the shadow. Reduce the opacity to about 50% so you can see what you're doing. Ctrl+D to deselect your PNG. And now just use the pen tool or the lasso tool to select the parts where your shadows shouldn't be at. Once again, just look at your reference photo and soon you can just guess where the shadow should be at without using a reference picture. As you can see, my shading isn't 100% right, but it does the job. Let's move on to After Effects now. Create a new composition with your desired size. I'm gonna be using 2560 by 1440 for this. Now you wanna drag your file into After Effects. The way I do it is I click on File, Import File. I select the file I wanna import, change this to retain layer sizes, and then click on OK. And OK once again. Now just pre-comp your panel using Ctrl+Shift+C. Add your desired background and overlays if you have any. I've already added mine here. One important thing before we start the compositing is you wanna have some kinda light source, or there's a big chance your composition will turn out bad. You can see some examples of light sources in these pictures. It can be really simple, like an optical flare or just a sky background. Alright? So the first thing you want to do is add some blur to your background. I recommend using Gaussian blur and camera lens blur. I also like to add slight gradients to my panels. I use YY ramp, but you can also use gradient ramp. Just tweak the settings until it looks good. I also like to play with the master alpha just to blend it in more. Okay, so I noticed that the PNG was a bit too bright. So I added curves to add a bit more contrast to it and make it a bit darker. I also decided to add some deep glow to my fire particles so they pop a bit more. Now I just create 3 adjustment layers. I name the first one Looks from Magic Bullet Looks, the second one Lum for Lumetri Color, and the third one RGB. For the chromatic aberration, click Edit to open Looks. I like to have to gradient exposures, optical diffusion, edge softness, colorista, and a LUT. Just tweak these settings until you like what you see. I like having multiple LUTs because it can give you more colors to choose from. I'm adding a light wrap plugin to blend Sukuna with the background more. I'm gonna leave the link to it in the description. I also added another YY ramp to Sukuna, cause he looked too bright to me. Sometimes you wanna add exposure to your backgrounds to make them brighter or darker to have more contrast on the character. What I do here is duplicate the background layer and add it on top of the character. Make sure this is on, so it clips to the character below. I change the blending mode to overlay, blur the background a lot, and reduce the opacity. I'm too lazy to edit this, so just follow my steps.